Hello and welcome to Alaska Aero Education's first SolidWorks tutorial video in SolidWorks 2017. In this video I'm going to be going over the basic SolidWorks interface and design a part for you that comes out of the Latrax alias transmitter, the little finger knobs that your fingers hold onto when you're flying your quad. So to do this I'm going to go ahead and start a new part file. To do this we can do this a few ways: File, New, we can hit this little document icon, or we can hit Control N on our keyboard. This opens up the new SolidWorks document type, and we want to select a part, but you could also design an assembly, which is a 3D arrangement of your 3D parts, or a drawing, which is a 2D technical drawing that has the dimensions of the parts that you've already made. So we want a part, so we're going to go ahead and hit OK. This brings us up into the SolidWorks interface, and the first thing that we're going to do is change our measurements. I measured this part in millimeters, and right now it's set to imperial measurements, so we're going to go down here in the lower right and change it from IPS to mmgs so that we can use millimeters all throughout our document. Now before I start designing, first I'm going to go ahead and explain a few of the different menus in SolidWorks. First, up here we have the title bar menu in the top left hand corner. This has useful tools like save, edit, view. You've got some of your features in here. And if you don't see this menu, if it looks like this, you can go ahead and hover over the arrow, come over here, and press that blue pin, make sure that's pinned, and your title bar menu will be pinned right at the top. To the right of it, we have the title toolbar menu. This has features like new document, open document, save, print. You can rebuild your document, go into your options. And then over here on the right, we have our task pane. And this has a bunch of SolidWorks resources that are really useful for getting started in SolidWorks, and a few different other tabs, but we're not going to get into that too much today. Over down here in the lower left, you can see we're selected on the model in the view indicator tabs. If your interface for some reason looks like this, you can go ahead and click on the model tab and get out of that, and this is where we're going to be staying mainly today. So now we can go up here to the command manager tabs. That's these four tabs up here. The main ones that we're going to be focusing on today are features and sketch. In the sketch menu, we're going to focus on sketch, smart dimension, line, circle, and spline. In the features tab, we're going to use an extruded boss base, a revolved boss base, and the fillet tool. So let's go ahead and start sketching now. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a sketch. Now I know that this piece has a cylinder at the bottom, and so I'm going to go ahead and select sketch and then select the top pane. And now I want to create a circle starting at the origin. I can either come up here and click circle, and there I can start a circle from there, or I can right click and then drag to the left, and this gives me a shortcut right to the circle tool. I'll go ahead and pin this circle to the origin and drag out, left click to drop it, escape to exit that. And you can see right now we have a circle. To dimension this, we can go ahead and click on the circle, and over here it's giving us an option to give us the radius. I know I want this circle to be 4.54 millimeters in diameter, so that means I'm going to make this 2.27 millimeters in radius. I'm going to use my scroll wheel and zoom way in and hit OK. Now I want to turn this circle into a cylinder. So to do that, I'm going to go from the sketch tab over to the features tab and click on extruded boss base. And that immediately gives us a preview of a cylinder extruding from that circle that we just dimensioned. So now I know I want this circle to go up 4.9 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 4.9 where it's asking us for the dimension, and hit enter. And that gives us an updated preview. That looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now if I want to view different angles, I can either press and hold my middle mouse button and then rotate the object, or what I like to do is come up to this button right here. This is your view orientation. Click on that. This gives you this drop down menu. Click on this tab right there, and this gives you a pinned orientation viewfinder. That way you can view the front of your model, the top of your model very easily, and as long as that blue pin is there, that's going to stay there while you're designing. Very useful. Now before we go on, if you look over here in our design tree, you can see that our feature that we just added, a boss extrude, is right here. And if we drop that down, you can see that we can see the sketch that we created earlier. If we want to go in and edit that sketch, all we need to do is click on that sketch and then go to edit sketch, and that way we can change on the fly the dimension of the circle we just made. But we like it where it is, so we're going to go ahead and exit that. Now what I want to do is create a second piece that goes on top of the little cylinder that we just made, and that piece is going to be the finger rest that our fingers are going to hold on when we're flying our drone. So we're going to go ahead and have a front view, and then we're going to start a new sketch, But this time, instead of creating just an extrusion on the top, what we're going to do is we're going to use the revolve feature and revolve a profile. So we're entered our sketch. It's asking us to select a plane on which to create our sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down this feature tree and select the front plane. Now if I zoom in, I'm going to go ahead and come up here and select the line tool, or I can right click and drag to the left, and that gives me the line tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this line right here, the top line of our cylinder, find the center by just dragging across until I find the point, click on that to lock it. I'm going to drag straight up, and you can see that little yellow mark to the lower right hand corner of my pencil. That means I'm drawing a straight line. Anywhere otherwise we won't have that mark. So go ahead and left click to save that line, exit to get out of the line tool. And now what we can do is go ahead and smart dimension this line. So the smart dimension tool is super useful. You can either click this, or you can right click in space and drag up, and you'll grab your smart dimension tool. So we're going to smart dimension this line to the height of how tall we want our finger rest. So we want it to be about 2.3 millimeters tall. Not only is this defining the height, but this is also giving us an axis of revolution for our revolve feature. Now what we're going to do is create the rest of the profile to revolve around this axis. So we can go ahead and exit out of the smart dimension and grab the line tool again. Grab this point and create the length of our piece. So now we have our straight line. Come up here, grab smart dimension. And we want this to be 8 millimeters because we want the entire thing to be 16 millimeters in diameter. So now we've got our length and we have our width. Now we're going to create the profile that we want to follow for the revolve. So to do this, I'm going to create the spline tool, use the spline tool. So using a spline tool is super useful. Basically, you use a spline, create a few different points, and then what you can do is adjust these points and create really interesting geometries and shapes, wavy lines in Solidworks. I'm going to select all that and hit the delete button. Grab the spline tool. I know I want it to start here and here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this, go up, down, go there, escape. Now I'm going to go ahead and just drag this a little bit and play around with it until I think it looks pretty good for what I'm going for. That looks good enough to me. So now what we're going to do is go over to the Features tab, click on Revolved Boss Base, and because we're already in our sketch, it knows what sketch we're going to use, so now it's just asking us for an axis of revolution. Because we have our profile here and we want it to revolve around here, this line, the center line, we're going to go ahead and select our axis of revolution to be this line right here. You can see that automatically brings up a preview of that nice conical dip shape that our finger can rest. That preview looks pretty good. It's got our length, it's got our width, it's got our spline. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now that looks pretty good to me, but to make it look a little bit more professional, what we're going to use is what's called the fillet tool. Now the fillet allows you to take hard, jagged lines and basically refine them and smooth them over. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the fillet tool. It's going to ask us for items to fillet. And I just grabbed this last circle right here, this bottom circle. But it's not giving us a preview because in our fillet parameters, it's showing us that it's previewing for a 10 millimeter in radius fillet. Now we want something a lot smaller. Let's try 1. See, that cuts off too much material too, so we're going to go even smaller and try 0.3 millimeters. Now that cuts off a tiny bit of material, but when we hit OK, you see that it makes a very nice rounded base that looks very professional in our design. Now we're going to come up here and create another fillet. But this time, instead of choosing the constant size fillet, we're going to choose the face fillet option. And now it's asking us for 2 different faces for us to fillet. So we're going to select this top face, and then it's asking us for a second face. We're going to come down here and select that, and we're going to grab this face right here. And it automatically detects the line that's in between those 2 faces and adds our 0.3 millimeter fillet. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now we're going to grab this last line right here and give it another fillet. Items to fillet right here. Grab this line, 0.3 millimeters. Looks good. And there you have it. Our Trax alias transmitter replacement finger rest is complete. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.